What's up, everybody? It's me, Marcus Black, also known as M Black Speaks. And I just felt like it was time, man, to speak up. I have previously written extensively about some of the things that we see playing out in our nation and this world and communities and streets, and talking about families turning on families, neighbors turning on neighbors, just the hatred, just the division, everything becoming a massive political issue in this climate. And I said, you know what? I started writing my notes and what I wanted to share, but I'm like, man, I'm not going to write it this time. I want you to see me. I want you to hear the heart. I want you to hear my voice as I unpack just a perspective for you. I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, profess to know it all, to be some guru. I'm just sharing a perspective that I'm sure many can relate to. Hopefully, that you can utilize the information that I share to factor in your opinion forming of what you see playing out in our nation. So with that being said, it's story time. And I want to start by telling you a story from when I was 18 years old. And I grew up in Mississippi. And Mississippi is a beautiful place. It's full of culture. It's full of Southern hospitality. It's full of beautiful people of all races. I got many family and friends there. But also, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know the history of Mississippi and some of the negative blights on our nation and some of the things that happen there. So sometimes there's this undertone within the culture that still exists to this very day. So when I was 18, it was late one evening. I was with a relative of mine, and we were going to get some medication for my aunt. My aunt was very sick, running a high fever, right? And so we're like, well, she's not going to make it to the doctor. We don't have anything at the house. Now, we lived in this little country area of town. So we had 15 minutes to get to the nearest store in either direction. So it's like, okay, well, whatever. We're going to get in the car. We get in the car, we roll out. As we're on the way, 5 minutes into the drive, behind us, we didn't even see it. The lights come on out of nowhere. Well, I've never been pulled over by police before, so my heart instantly sank. I'm like, oh, man, I've heard stories, but to my knowledge, those things only happen in movies, so I'm good. We good. We're not doing nothing wrong. We're just going to get some medicine. Now it is late. It's about 11:30 p.m. And so as we're driving, officers pull up, but they don't get out of the car immediately. That's the first red flag. Like, maybe they're doing their protocols. I don't know. I just know that this time is achingly going so slow as we're waiting, just kind of painfully waiting in this awkward silence. Next thing I know, 2 more cars pull up. Once the additional cars pull up, that's when the officer gets out of the car. Now you're talking 6 officers. So when they approach the car, I get this. They don't know what they're going to find in the car. They don't know what's awaiting them. So I'm not going to be an idiot and say they have no reason to be nervous. Because at the end of the day, those men and women want to get home to see their family and loved ones. And I can respect that. I get it. What I do not get, however, is how the first thing out of your mouth when we let the window down can be you speaking Ebonics to us. And if you don't know what Ebonics is, Google it. Go and look up Urban Dictionary and figure out what Ebonics is. But it's a derogatory manner and a way for them to try to discredit us and make a mockery of a culture that exists within inner city Black communities, a form of broken dialect, should I say. And so that kind of bothered me, but not enough for me to say something, because I'm like, man, that's kind of hurtful. Like, you talking about, come on, homie, come on, where the weed at, and saying all this stuff, accusing us of doing drugs. And this is like before we ever get to the license and any of that. And he said, come on, man, come on, homie, I can tell you, if you just tell us right now where the drugs at, we can save a lot of time here, and then I can let you off light, and saying all this stuff and joking. Now I'm sitting over here afraid. My cousin is getting agitated. And I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but it's like he's been pulled over before multiple times. Even had run-ins with some of the same officers. And they're asking the same questions. And they are belittling and condescending in their nature. And as a person, a human being, at some point, you feel. And it's not bad to feel. And now I'm sitting over here afraid. He's getting agitated. They're steadily talking about weed and drugs and talking about searching the car. My cousin like, you're not going to find anything in the car. Next thing you know, this is when things escalate. They're like, all right, well, if we're not going to find nothing, then y'all don't have any problem getting out of the car. And my cousin like, whatever. So my cousin gets out of the car. I don't know what's happening. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I hear them kind of fussing at each other. About this time, I'm sitting in the car nervous. I hear dogs. The drug dogs come. The drug dogs are on both sides of the road in open fields, just really sniffing, really like they're talking about look over there, make sure you check over here, as if we threw some drugs out the window. Now, I'm not saying they should trust us because they don't know us. So do what you got to do. If that's the standard procedure for a routine stop because our tag light of the car was out, if that's standard procedure, then fine. Be your standard procedure. But you can't tell me all of this is standard procedure because next thing I know, here comes an officer knocking on my door with the flashlight. And it's like aggressive. And I'm like, I kind of freeze because I don't know what to do. I haven't been in this situation before. And so as I go to open the door, he's yelling, open the door, open the door. So I open the door, and now there's two officers, and they're both yelling. One of them is saying, get out of the car, and the other one's saying something else, but I can't tell. And so I'm trying to figure out which one of them I should listen to, and I wasn't moving fast enough, so the officer grabbed me and pulled me out of the car. As he pulled me out of the car, he took me around the side of the car, pushed me up against the car, spread my legs, start going through everything, pat me down, feeling all up in my legs and my pants to see, I guess, if I have a weapon or drugs. And so that's fine. So now there's three officers, and they're all saying different things. They're not saying the same thing to me. This one's yelling, do this. This one's yelling, do that. And I'm frantic because this stuff only happens on TV. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is not real. But this is happening to me at 18 years of age. And so next thing you know, they got my cousin on the hood of the car. The officer pulled me around because I guess I'm not complying. I don't know what I'm complying to. I hear all these different voices. It's chaotic. There's dogs yelling and barking. They're in the car. Pull me around, slam me on the hood of the car, my face down. They're searching and going through the car, tearing it up and down. And after all of that, I'm in tears now because I'm like, I feel so violated. And you just making a mockery. You're laughing like this is funny. This is not funny. And so after all of that, they don't find any drugs. After they don't find any drugs, they come and let us know, like, okay, you free to go. And like my cousin's, he's upset. I told you we didn't have any drugs. He's saying this. I'm just like, let's go. Let's go. So we get in the car. As we get in the car, we get ready to go back and get the medicine. The officer said, no, you're not going to the store. You're going home. And my cousin's like, well, my mom is sick. I have to go. He said, no, you're going home. And he said, we're going to follow you home to make sure. And all three cars pulled behind us, made us turn around and followed us back to the house and sat in the driveway until we went in the house, and they continued to sit in the driveway for like 20 to 30 minutes after that to make sure we didn't try to leave again. Here's why I share this with you. Fast forward, that was years ago. I was 18. I'm 33 years old now. 15 years ago, 15 years later, fast forward, just recently, during this 2020 hectic climate, coronavirus, all of this stuff, I'm a married man. I'm sitting in the house with my wife. We got two little boys I love to death, and I'm getting ready to put them to bed. We put them to bed. My wife and I are sitting down. We're having our date time. We're just enjoying each other, sitting back after dinner, watching our favorite show before we get ready for bed. I get a knock at the door, and it's pretty aggressive knock at the door. This is just recently. And as that knock came at the door, it came pretty aggressively. It came hard, and I'm thinking like, okay, hold on. Like, who's knocking at the door? Because I'm looking at the clock. It's like 8:45 p.m. People don't come to your door and to your house unannounced anymore at that time of night unless it's like some type of emergency. So I get up and I go to the door, make sure everything is good. I get to the door, and before I can open it, I hear a voice yell out, and they say, okay, CPD. They're yelling. I'm like, oh, boy. My heart sank in that moment, and I kind of froze a little bit. But I'm like, well, I got to open the door. So I walk forward. I proceed to open the door. The officer says, hey, do you have any small children in your home? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, well, and then he sees at this point, in this moment, that I am like visibly not okay. I'm like shook. And his entire demeanor changed. You know why? Because he's a compassionate individual, because he was just a good human being, and he's not oblivious or ignorant to the stigmas and stereotypes that come along with what's happening in our nation today. So he went out of his way to be super kind, super gracious, to unpack the situation that had unfolded. We hadn't done anything. Some stuff was going on with the neighbors. He just wanted to check in. Everything was good, all clear. Really kind individual. He leaves. Well, when he leaves, this is the first time in my entire life I've ever felt paralyzed. When you hear people say, we are afraid for our lives, I promise you, I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating, I have no reason to lie to you. One of the first thoughts that go to my mind was, am I gonna die? Like, are they gonna shoot me? And then the next thought was like, we haven't done anything wrong, you don't have to worry about that. But then a list of names, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, come on, man. All these names start going through my head, and I'm like, well, they didn't do anything wrong either, and they still wound up dead. So like, could my fear communicate something that I'm nervous? I don't know. So I'm thinking, processing. Well, after they leave, I'll never forget this moment. My wife walked over and she noticed that I hadn't moved from the spot even after the officer had left. She said, honey, are you okay? And I started shaking uncontrollably and tears just ran down my face. And I was paralyzed by fear for the first time in my life. And I said to her, it's not supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be this way. Now, many of you know me. You know who I am. Some of you who might see this, you don't know me. So for those of you who don't know, many know me as a husband. They know me as a father. They know me as a pastor. They know me as a mentor, a missionary, working in the community, pouring out, mentoring, giving back, being a bridge, giving insight, caring and loving people, all people. That's who I am. You know that. But what you don't know is that in college, I had a warrant out for my arrest. And I was like, oh, what did he do? He's a criminal. Here we go. For the people who don't know me. No, I'm not. What happened was I got a seatbelt ticket like once when I was home on a break. And then I went back to school like 2 days later, traveled back to school in Texas. I'm from Mississippi. So I never paid that ticket. And because I never paid that ticket, eventually I missed the court dates. I don't even know this is happening. Maybe they're sending mail to my home address, but I don't have it. I don't know what's happening. So long story short, my license gets suspended. There's a warrant out for my arrest. I can only imagine what would have happened. And by the grace of God, I didn't go to prison or end up dead or get stopped, because I drove like that for 3 years. And I was not pulled over by one officer in that time. And it's not because I'm this great driver. It's literally by the grace of God. And this is why I say that. If I had got pulled over, I cannot say to you how I would have responded based on my prior experience, and something we don't talk about. I hear a lot of people yelling, well, if you just don't break the law, you have nothing to worry about. Well, if you just comply with the officers, you will live. And I'm sharing all of this to enlighten you to a perspective that you might not be aware of, that that's not always the case. That wasn't my reality, because I am a law-abiding citizen. I am a police supporting, military supporting. I honor the people who give their life selflessly for this nation. And yet, in that moment, the people who were sworn to protect and serve were making a mockery of me, who were laughing, who were belittling, and it was more than one. It was a group of them. So with all of that being said, that PTSD, that traumatic stress syndrome, it just kicks in. And that's what happened a few months ago when the officers, 15 years later, I can never unexperience that experience. I can never see an officer aside from that experience. Now, I'm not going to judge him. I'm not going to be a jerk. I'm not going to yell or make this guy's life difficult, because I know he wants to get home to his family. I'm just saying, when you hear people say they're afraid, when you wonder, why don't they just comply? Why don't they just surrender? Why don't they just give up? That's not the first thing that crosses my mind, given the life experience I had. And I don't know how many of you've ever had guns drawn, police yelling, chaotic, being slammed on the car. I don't know how many of you've had that for something like a tag light being out on your car. Like, I don't know if you've had that experience. So I share this to enlighten you and hopefully give you a perspective that's not represented, so that you can see I'm not a criminal. I did have a warrant. If I had got arrested during that time, I might be dead because I might have been afraid, because I might have clammed up, because I might have not known what to do or what to reach for to try to prove who I am, because I was thinking out of fear, because it was still fresh at the time when I was in college. So I'm saying all this to say, there is something in the world called aversion, right? And many times people relate this to food. Maybe sometime in your life, you ate something that you loved, and you just ate and you ate and you ate and you ate and you ate until you couldn't eat anymore. And then what happened? You got sick as a dog. You got a stomach bug, stomach flu, you throwing up, to spare you the graphics, things coming out everywhere uncontrollably. And so what typically happens? You build an aversion to that food, meaning you don't want anything to do with it and you avoid it at all cost. So how can we understand, oh, a person tells me they ate all of this ice cream and they hate ice cream to this day because they got so sick and they were throwing up for days, so they never want to touch it again. How can you not understand an entire community or demographic of people having an aversion, not wanting to be overly just close or build relationships with police officers specifically? How can you not understand that when you can understand it with food, when you can understand it with other substances that people overuse to where they get so sick that they don't want to do it anymore? And I'm not sitting here to vilify anyone. You're not a villain. The officers aren't a villain, not all officers. I had a really close friend who lived here, who we would sit down and talk, and he would enlighten me, help me understand protocols and processes and procedures, and I would help him understand culture, and it was beautiful. Beautiful conversation, mutual respect. And at the end of the day, I want nothing more for him right now than to be able to make it home to his beautiful wife and family every single night. And all of them who are out here really protecting and serving, because there are many of them who are. This isn't about that. We're not asking, well, some people are, I can't speak for them. I and many like me are not asking for you to get rid of the police. I'm not asking for that. Not asking for you to vilify them. If you are a person who's watching this video and you're white, and I've had many ask me like, well, why do you want me to feel guilty for stuff I can't control? I don't want that. I don't want you to take personal responsibility for slavery. You didn't have anything to do with that. You have as much control over being white as I do being black. I don't want you to feel guilty for something you cannot control. That's not what many are asking for. What we are asking is just to take into account why you see things. The gentleman who was just shot 7 times in the back in front of his 3 small children. I have small children. I cannot imagine what would be going through your mind as this scene is playing out. I don't know anything about him. I hear all this stuff about his background. He's not an upstanding citizen, and if he did this and if he did that, I don't know anything there. I know those officers want to make it home just like he wanted to make it home with his kids, but I am just saying, when you see these things, I want to give you understanding as to why he might be going to get into the car with no weapons, because he's in his right mind. He might not even be in his right mind in that moment because of fear, because of PTSD, because of aversion, all these things that I've just broken down for you. So at the end of the day, you see this on my shirt. What does it say? I am a person that speaks to unity. I get grief from many people on both sides. I don't think there's sides. Personally, I think there's only one side. I think there's one race, and that's the human race. And we do have cultures, and we have subcultures and things that we deal with. And I don't think anybody should feel guilty or ridiculous for where they come from. If you are proud of your heritage, if you're proud of your grandparents and parents who fought in the military, be proud, please. I'm not asking you not to. That's beautiful. Honor your family. If you're a white person, you're like, I'm tired of people making me feel guilty and like I'm a racist because I'm a conservative, because you're not. That doesn't make you a racist just because you're conservative. But if you aggressively are fighting the people who are anti-racist, then there's some questions you got to ask yourself and some self-reflection. Because why go out of your way? I'm not against you having your Second Amendment rights. I know there's many people who are like, if a protest comes to your home and people are threatening your home and your personal property, man, you got to do what you got to do. I can understand you being upset. But there are people in other cities that we don't have any contact with, nothing to do with. And there are so many people saying, I'm going to go out of my way to go to another state so I can run over protesters because I'm so upset at what they're doing. not understanding why they're doing what they're doing. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, man, what we need is understanding. It's my only point in making this video. And I know some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to threaten me, probably threaten my family, which is sad. At the end of the day, all I want to tell you is we don't have to fight tooth and nail over everything we see in the media. I share my story to help enlighten and inform your perspective of why you may see certain things play out the way they do. But at the end of the day, I'm a person that has respect for every respectful individual. I want to respect you. I want to respect your opinion. And I want to show that we can have difficult, enlightening, educational conversations that don't have to divide. We can have conversations that show that together, because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take me. It's going to take you. It's going to take all of us. No matter what happens in the election, this side's going to win. This side's going to lose. This side's going to be mad because they lost. This side's going to be gloating because they won. There's no sides. We are Americans. We are one people. If we're on a team and I say we're supposed to be a team, there's no way one team member can win and the other team member can lose. Whichever side loses, we just got to figure out the best way to work together so that we create a place that everybody who lives here loves and can adore and can cherish and can feel comfortable and safe and building their life and loving their family. That's what I'm talking about. This is not rocket science. We got to stop spreading false misinformation on the media, sharing memes and all of this stuff that's as false as can be. We have to do that. I don't care what. There's people trying to censor you and Facebook, man, forget what they're doing. We got to censor ourselves. What are we doing? How are we perpetuating the problem? How is sharing this going to push us to be better, to rise above, to elevate? That's what I'm talking about. The only reason I'm speaking to you is because I care. I care about this land. I care about these people, all of these people, everybody. Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians alike. I care about everybody. And what I want is for us to band together. What I want is for us to seek to understand each other. What I want is for us to sit at the table and build real, loving, life-giving relationships so that we can move forward, so that we can grow, so that we can be better. Why? Because together we can move forward. That's all I'm saying. I'm out.